Welcome to the Two Grumpy Bastards podcast, where feelings aren't felt and snowflakes melt. Buckle up, it's gonna be a bumpy ride.
They painted over ants.
Well, here we are back, the Two Grumpy Bastards, coming to you both on the podcast outlets and this week on YouTube. Yep, on YouTube this week. So the YouTubers didn't hear that first intro for copyright reasons, but that was Offspring's "The Kids Aren't All Right."
Yeah, I thought I recognized the singer. You know that that guy I think he's got a PhD, I believe.
He does, yeah, chemical engineering, I believe. And the dude can fly like 20 different aircraft. He can pilot. Dexter, yeah, he's a stud. Yeah, and that band they had their heyday, of course, in the late 90s, their early aughts. But yeah, I love their shit.
Yeah, I like the guitar intro. It kept it fast, kept it loose, and then he's singing, but he's also screaming. So it's a good little mix there.
Yeah, God, they have some really good stuff. They're still on my rotation all the time, especially on my drive little music list that I got going on. Well, that song had a message, Russ, and you probably know what that message is. This kids aren't all right, because the kids aren't all right in this country for a lot of reasons, and we're going to specifically talk about one. Just a quick aside before we get rolling today, I listened on, I believe it was Shapiro's podcast, where he was talking about the overall IQ for the first time in something like 70 years in this country has actually gone down. 3 out of the 4 chief indicators of intelligence, the different categories, there's like mathematical, logical, spatial, and visual spatial. The only thing that actually didn't go down was visual spatial, which would make some sense because people are on their fucking iPhones and pads and pods and all that all day. Kind of scary to think that when we'll save the education talk for another day, because I got a lot to say about that with that strike that's going on down in LA and school district and stuff like that. But the kids aren't all right. And there's a lot of reasons for that. Getting away from the basics, getting away from actual education and spending education time. And I'm just surprised. My neighbor has a junior high school daughter, and she's in school from like 8 to 2. It's really weird because in my day, it was like kind of a job. You went there and you were there a little longer. And the curriculum is very interesting, although there are some things that like advanced placement and they have emphasis on these things. Kids are being exposed to things that are not only not educational, they're counter-educational. And I know we'll leave the names out of it, but a friend of the pod and a fan of the pod, and you had an interest in the exchange on Facebook about a certain topic that's near and dear to my heart. I certainly have some passionate opinions about it. Before we get rolling with you want to give us the summary of that, and then we can watch the video. Will that work?
You want me to give the summary first, or you do the video first?
Go ahead and give the summary first, because I kind of want to give your overview, and then I'll show just a 40-second snippet of a video that illustrates probably what you're talking about, probably what I'm going to talk about.
All right, well, this is multifaceted, but it involves men dressing up as women in several different venues. One is the drag queen story hour. One is the drag shows, some of which cater to children, even though they should not. There's back and forth over what should be banned legally and what should not. Some folks online have claimed that the drag show story hours are being banned. There's no law in the country that I'm aware of where the reading to children has been banned. I'd be fine if that was not happening. I believe that men dressing as women confuse impressionable young children, and I'm kind of curious as to why men who dress as women want to hang around small children. I think that's a little bit weird. But so the drag queen story hour is one, but it's not banned legally anywhere in the country. There's some folks who say, well, look, this place like West Texas just canceled their show and this other place canceled the show. Okay, private venues can make whatever decisions they want. All right, private venues that's not the law. The law is government coming in at point of gun and saying you can or cannot do this. The other part is there are states such as Tennessee that are banning drag shows for minors. And if you've seen the videos of some of these drag shows, they're pretty grotesque. You got these men with fake breasts rubbing them in the faces of the patrons, sometimes the faces of children, doing crotch shots, etc. And so Tennessee, they didn't ban the drag shows. They simply said if you're going to do one, it's got to be in an adult venue. So it's being treated similar to a strip club. You wouldn't take a 5-year-old to a strip club. Why are you taking a 5-year-old to a sexually provocative drag show? I do think that it introduces elements of confusion and sexuality to children well before they're ready for it. It's hard at that age to know what the context of some of these things are. Some folks have tried saying, well, look, we had bosom buddies and Mrs. Doubtfire and all the, Tootsie and all this stuff for years. Yeah, but that was done for humor. Try laughing. First of all, a show like Bosom Buddies could not get made today because the whole premise of the show was it was absurd that Tom Hanks and I can't remember the other guy, but he was on Newhart. But Tom Hanks' friend in the show.
Yeah, he passed away, actually, that actor did.
I didn't know that. But the whole point was
Peter something.
Yeah, the whole point was the absurdity of them dressing as the opposite sex just to gain access to an apartment building that was cheaper in rent and all this other stuff. The character of Klinger on MASH could not be made today because Klinger's whole point was he's trying to dress up as a woman to convince Colonel Potter that he's insane and should get Chapter 8 discharge out of the Korean War. So folks pointing to those shows, they are leaving out context. They're leaving out the way society would react today. And the drag show, the drag queen story hours, I think for small children is a little bit over the top.
A little bit.
I think that it makes children ask questions at a very impressionable age. I mean, a lot of 5 and 6 year olds think they're, princesses and pirates. And parents have to kind of have a duty to let kids know what's real and what's not, and not to intentionally expose them to stuff that's going to lead to potential confusion either in the present or down the line. And there's another stat I'll use later as we talk about it, but that's the general overview.
Yeah, I think it's a good overview. I always hate to do this. I always hate to pre-qualify what I'm going to say or what we're going to talk about. Let me fix this stupid thing. It's bugging me. I know you love it when I do this live.
No, this is a good podcast, folks.
It is good podcast to see my hand. Anyway, I got a couple comments to preface this. Drag Queen Story Hour. What is the fucking point other than to subterfuge a lifestyle into children's heads through what is supposed to be an innocent educational process? If they're actually trying to educate kids about alternative lifestyles, then just do that. Ask parents to bring your kids to a discussion or that. I've seen these videos and they're actually really frightening and people are laughing. Oh, little Amanda's was sure funny in her reaction. And then you got a 5-year-old kid going, are you gay? Yeah. Whoever's parents let them do this, especially get filmed to do this, should be arrested for child abuse, in my opinion. And everything I'm going to say is going to sound transphobic. It's not. It's not. What it is I don't give a shit, but stop it already. We see what you're doing. We understand. Everybody's like, oh, you on the right, talk about groomers. And yes, that's exactly what you're doing. You're using a well-documented institution. I mean, I'm glad Geordie LaForge wasn't like sitting there in a jockstrap in a tutu on Reading Rainbow back in the day, right? I mean, what's the effing difference? This is not appropriate. I'm sorry. This is a really weird way to get your point across, and it's taking an institution that is cherished, that is wholesome. And yes, I'm saying wholesome because let me tell you my flat out point up front. Whatever fetish that you're into, whether it's a man dressing up as a woman or if it's a gay man, effeminizing, that's your fetish. That's your thing. If you're a member of the sex that wears the cock and you purport to be a woman, you're delusional and you're suffering from a mental health issue. That doesn't mean I hate you. That doesn't mean I'm transphobic. I'm not afraid of you. I don't hate you, but I also think that you're wrong. I think that you're suffering from a mental health issue. The second the point I want to make is that people who are so militant about defending this lifestyle and these drag queen show. What are you doing? What is your point? This is the hill you want to die on? You are virtue signaling idiots. And here's why, because you're probably the same people that would go out to a public university where a Ben Shapiro is going to talk, or a freaking any conservative speaker, and protest it and try to get those shut down. An intellectual trying to talk about philosophical, social, and political points, you don't want them on a public university campus, but you're trying to shame parents and people who believe that childhood should be protected against these things, or that children should be protected by their parents. Parents need to make these decisions on their own. You're trying to shame people who have those beliefs. At the same time, you're not allowing a conservative speaker on your campus. You're shutting those things down. How dare you? How dare you as a human being even speak on it? How dare you get on a Facebook page and defend these things when you're that person? When you're the type of person that's going to go on there, and anybody with a conservative point of view, you're going to call a devil, or you're going to think, shut them down, take away their First Amendment rights. Fuck you. Seriously. That's where I get angry, Russ. If this shit was just happening and it was just a few people getting together and a bunch of, I think, fucked up parents, if fucked up parents want to do that and take their kids, and they know somebody who's into that community and they want to take them and have a conversation, okay. But to make this an issue, to make this a burning issue, a hill to die on, it is so narcissistic. These are the most narcissistic human beings on planet Earth, in my opinion, because you're taking a fetish, a component, which should be a small component of your lifestyle. There should be other things to it too, like, what do you like to do on the weekends? What do you do for a living? What do you like to read? What's your basic philosophy of life? What's your spiritual beliefs? But you're taking this, blowing it up into something that's like some type of religious crusade, and that's exactly what it is. It's a counterfeit for religion, spiritual values, and you're making this some huge thing. Who you decide to have sex with, or what you decide to wear, or what little characteristics you have, becomes this ridiculous mantra, this mantle. And it's so narcissistic, Russ. It's like if I wanted to turn the entire world into, I don't know, name some characteristic of mine.
Blondness.
Yes. I mean, or fuck, I was playing Fallout 4 before I got on with you. Yes, I play Xbox. I'm that guy. Should that be the only thing I ever talk about, or only, the whole world has to agree with me that Fallout 4 is the best video game in the world, and if you don't, you should be canceled? That's a stupid analogy, but it's actually kind of apt. The only problem is if I purport to take any of my characteristics and try to put them out there, I'm not harming anybody. But you can absolutely look at the number of kids that are supposedly trans now compared to years past, the peer pressure, the narcissism, the egocentric values that are being taught to these children, and you can see all of the psychological problems that are stacking up. You don't think these IQ issues have something, that part of the root cause is that we're spending way too much time on issues like this instead of resilience and parenting and just old-fashioned critical thinking skills and stuff like that in society? My God, it's beyond. And that's why people like you and me start getting pissed and start firing back, when before I just don't care. I'm never going to go to a drag show. I don't think they're funny. I think they're kind of gross. It oops me out. I think it's a weird fetish, and that's exactly what it is. It's a fucking fetish. Women that are like really into going to drag shows and watching all those, I think you're weird. Okay, I don't know why you're into that. I don't. I think you're weird. There's some things I do. I bet you think I was weird too, but I don't go around with a bullhorn talking about my weird shit. Hey, I don't. These people have to do it because it becomes their entire identity, and that's that goddamn self-esteem movement that has happened in this country, that everything's okay and you're great. No, you're not. You're a freak. I'm sorry, you're a fucking freak. And I'm going to show you videos of some freaks here in just a couple of minutes. All right, sorry. No, I'm not.
So a couple of things. Two things in particular. First of all, we wouldn't bring, it wouldn't be Hooters story hour or women wearing booby tassels story hour. If we did, folks would rightly condemn it as sexualizing children. What it is doing is, you're right, it is it is an attempt, it is a subterfuge attempting to introduce young children to a lifestyle that, is not necessarily in their best interest, and it does serve to indoctrinate. One quick stat that I want to bring up is in the baby boomer generation identifies, I believe, at 0.2%, 0.2% LGBTQ. The Generation Z is identifying over 20% LGBTQ, which is, first of all, that is a 10,000% increase within 3 generations. Now, there's a case to be made that, yes, society is more open and accepting now, and so you would expect an increase from 0.2%. But a 10,000% increase is ludicrous. That is social contagion. That is people trying to fit in. And some of this is starting to, there are folks now that are pushing back on this. I've seen a lot of folks that said they were into that, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, maybe I'm not as into it as I thought I was.
It's a concept.
The second thing,
nothing more.
Yeah, the second thing is with folks who want to behave in certain ways, who want to dress in certain ways. You do whatever you want. I don't really care. It's not my thing, but you're free to do whatever you want. My biggest issue comes in when you are trying intentionally to expose it to children. Children is the line, because now it's children. Now we are, as Bill Maher once said when he talked about the difference in the stats between California and Ohio, either California is naming them or Ohio is shaming them, because the disparity is now regional, and a lot of folks use this almost as a trophy, virtue signaling trophy, and then a lot of other folks try to defend it because they think reality is mean. And I'm sorry, you don't get to, put this stuff on children just because you don't like the way the last 150,000 years of societal and biological evolution has worked. If you want to expose people to that, you do it in an age appropriate manner as they are older. But the reason why folks don't do this when folks are either mid to late teenage years for a first exposure or as adults is because they know they can't indoctrinate at those as people get older. As children are younger, they are far more impressionable. They're far more likely to take this stuff in and then try to outwardly express it in their own way. And that's what folks object to. You can't get a tattoo as a child. You can't go to a strip show as a child. There is a concept which a lot of people overlook, which is the concept of legal consent. And minors are simply not able to legally consent to a bunch of stuff. That's why we have statutory rape laws. Doesn't matter how a 14-year-old acts in junior high school or high school, they can't go out and have sex with a 20-year-old. The 20-year-old will go to jail because the 14-year-old is not capable of legal consent. You can't give a kid an aspirin without a parent's permission. So, the concept of legal consent and what children are and are not able to consent to is something that I think that we've overlooked in society. And to kind of take it a little bit further, if we really wanted to take this to the logical conclusion, then there's things you wouldn't let people do until they're 25 years old, because 25 is about when the brain is fully developed. But at the very least, it should not be before the age of 18, because the age of 18 is legal adulthood.
Right. And you can argue all day long about what that arbitrary line should be, why 18, why not 16? I don't care. That's the law. What this all reminds me of is that I really don't want to be this conservative. I really don't. I really don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be old man Coop yelling at the clouds. I don't. But what has happened, it's made me do that because we saw this coming. The more permissive behavior that happens, and yeah, it's permissive. Ladies and gentlemen, there is a difference between interpretation of things and actual fact. There's a huge difference between the two. Perception is not fact. Opinion is not fact. Emotions are not fact. Fact, exposing children to certain things like that will have a profound mental health effect on them. I'm not saying they're all going to be crazy or they're all going to turn gay or anything like that, but it will absolutely have that. Fact, when you take the onus of the responsibility away from parents, nothing good ever happens in a society, in a community. Nothing good ever happens. And I don't care what your arguments are about there's a lot of bad parents out there. I don't care. That's the system. When you identify bad parents, then there is a system in place that's supposed to deal with that. Okay. So give me a goddamn break. This is nothing more than a religious cult. It's a religious cult. And the people that, like you were arguing with, that purport to be angry about your stance on it or support it, you're just virtue signaling assholes. And you know you're not sincere. You know you're not sincere. You know this is not a sincere issue. It just makes you look cool because you're trying to impress your leftist wife, or you're trying to impress, you grew up in a culture that was very conservative and perhaps in your opinion a little ignorant, and you've rebelled against that because everybody hates daddy. But now, I'm sorry, guess what? Daddy was right. Is this country in better shape because folks with those opinions have been in charge for a while, or in charge of Hollywood and the universities and politics? Fuck no, it's not. In no way, shape, or form. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I want to make one real quick point, because a lot of folks will say, well, let the parents who want to bring their children to these drag shows or these drag, whatever, let them do it. Well, the problem is that there are limits we put on parents as well. Parents cannot take their child to get a tattoo. All right. Parents can't take them to a strip club. Parents are not allowed to take them. Yeah, you can't take them on the floor of a casino.
Right.
Okay. There are limits. You can't take a child to an NC-17 movie, no matter how much you want to.
Right.
There are limits we put in place for the good of society, because we recognize as a society, there are certain things that children are simply not to be exposed to until they are older and gain more context so they can rationalize this stuff. I mean, 5 and 6 year olds, they live in a land of imagination. I hear people say, well, 5 and 6 year olds are real smart. No, they're not.
They're not.
Children are stupid.
Fucking heads full of
maybe
jello,
certain
man.
children, maybe certain children are smart for their age, but the reason they're stupid is because they're children. They don't know as much as grown-ups, and they don't have the perspective to contextualize the world the way that grown-ups do. That's the whole reason why we have laws about what you have to be certain ages for certain things. And I think a lot of folks are intentionally, and folks, they'll deny this all day long, but they are intentionally introducing these concepts precisely because the ages are impressionable and they know they need to get them early. And the second thing, not to put too fine a point on this, is one of the reasons they need to do it through the public school systems, through other stuff, is because I know you don't like the word conservative, but the conservatives, the religious communities, not to put too fine a point on it, we're the ones breeding. Okay, we're the ones having children. The secular leftist progressive communities are not having anywhere near as many children. So if you're not replacing your own stock, then you got to find other stock in order to continue to propagate the way that you believe society should be. It's like I said, it's not everywhere, but it is a large portion of that. And your point about you don't want to be this conservative, that bears repeating, because most folks, I would consider you a lot more libertarian than socially conservative in terms of wanting to impose your views on people. I would like to be a lot more libertarian. But unfortunately, there are people that will not allow us to just have a live and let live, go do your own thing philosophy. All right. If that's all it was, I think we could be fine. But it's a matter of cramming those beliefs and those views down on others that forces a backlash to that. And as I've said before, I think what's shocking, the backlash is in force. Okay. When this first came out, it was kind of like a shock. Oh my goodness, what's happening? But the normies have started fighting back. And there are a lot more normies than there are otherwise. And I think I think there's a very dangerous game, a very potentially harsh backlash that could be coming to this stuff, because you're forcing people to take a position that ordinarily they just would be left alone. But you're forcing people to take a position because they're going to have no other choice. Otherwise, it's going to just be pure surrender.
Yeah, you're bringing up a lot of points. Let me, before I wrap up my side of this, let me go ahead and play this video I've been threatening to play here. I'm going to admit this is cherry picking, but this is actually from a quote unquote one of those family friendly trans shows, and it's just a few seconds from a snippet. Just kind of
Well,
gives you a
can
good.
allow this on.
their kid out to a family-friendly drag show, ladies and gentlemen. Are you confused yet? Minty fresh.
So anybody out there who wants to defend that, pick a spot and I can meet you there and we can have a discussion. Seriously, it's fucking disgusting. Okay. Not only does that make me want to vomit, and it makes me, I'll keep it on the civil. It makes me so angry at the parents who would expose their children or something like that, that I honestly think that should be those parents should be arrested. That is vile. That's absolutely vile. I did the back checking to make sure this wasn't something that it was from a mainstream news source. I clipped all that out to kind of keep the copyright stuff out. It was vetted. This is from they weren't joking. That was not sarcasm, family friendly. That was disgusting. I've seen much less at, some of those strip clubs and down on 6th Avenue in Austin. Let me tell you, it's nutty. It's absolutely nuts. And anybody says that, oh, they're, banning, nobody's trying to ban anything. What we're trying to ban is permissive behavior being forced down the throats of people who are, I get so angry about this. I can't even think about it. These kids are literally no different than exploiting a special needs adult, right? Somebody who's severely mentally handicapped or something like that. It's to the same par. It's that vile. It's not just inappropriate. I believe it borders on evil. I do. I believe there's a maleficence there. I do.
And it is a fetish. It is people getting their rocks off on this stuff. I was under the impression that one of the things we were supposed to do is protect society and especially children from the sometimes perverse impulses of men. Because let's be fair, men, do perpetrate a lot of the sexual perversion, the sexual violence in our country. But for some reason, now that we've decided that it's mean, that kind of stuff is okay when it goes one way. It doesn't make it any less a sexual fetish. Doesn't mean that it should be exposed to children. If you want to go do that with your own buddies, hey, knock yourself out. There's a lot of folks that do stuff in their own bedrooms they wouldn't want posted on a billboard.
I don't care.
Times Square.
Go have a swinger party with metal and donkeys as far. No, not donkeys. I like donkeys. Leave donkeys alone. But you know what I'm saying.
But you don't get to expose children to this. That's the point. Is you wouldn't put children at Deja Vu strip club or down at Hustler, and tell them that, hey, this is just the way that some women are. That would never be acceptable. Those parents would be getting visits from CPS, and they would probably end up in court at some point. This is the kind of stuff that does drag down a society. It produces a confused generation that is not capable of understanding reality and certain sexual and societal norms. I'm sorry if you have stuff like that you're into, great. Again, go do it all you want, but you don't get to expose children to it. But I think that a lot of folks want to do that because they know that if they wait until the children are older, then they can't indoctrinate them with this kind of stuff.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I have a very personal bent to this, as a little bit about me, that I was exposed to some things as a child that no child should ever be exposed to. And it has had a profound effect on my life in a very negative way. There's nothing good that's come of it, nothing, including some of the struggles that I've had in the last, recent few months. Some of it can be, the origin of a lot of things, twists you up. And I'm not making excuses here or anything like that, but I know firsthand what being exposed to some very, very dark, bad, yucky things, and just plain way too adult things as a young child. Listen, I was a really smart kid. High IQ quotient, off the charts. But I also thought I was the $6 million man, the bionic man, when I was 5 years old. So there was definitely a naivete that I wish I could have kept a little later in life.
Yeah, I was convinced I was an alien from the planet X-19.
Yeah, X-19 sucks though, man. X-18 is such a nicer planet.
Hey, X-18 was where all those hippie boys with beards and dark hair went.
Oh my. Well, we can get off this topic, no pun intended, but the probably talk about some other things here, but your point's taken. I know how crass it is, and you're right. I do tend towards libertarianism, but part of libertarianism carries a responsibility with it, unlike anarchism. And that responsibility is that you are right. You protect the innocent from things. That's part of libertarianism. Libertarianism doesn't mean you exploit or allow the exploitation of people who can't defend themselves. It's quite the opposite. Carries
Yeah,
a
it's the difference between libertarianism and anarchism.
Yep. And I'm not an anarchist. I'm no Michael Malice. And so a couple things before we get going. I meant to say it up front, but I was passionate to get into this, especially after watching that video. I need to issue a retraction from last week. By the way, last week, folks, thanks for hanging with us. I had COVID so bad last week and didn't know it at the time. I thought I was just really sick and then came up positive on a couple of tests. This week, I have a broken ankle. So, but I'm only on ibuprofen. I don't take the drugs, never liked those things, never liked those opiate things anyway. So on ibuprofen and ice. So I've been really sitting on my ass for the last 2 days and I'm bored silly. That's probably why I'm a little more animated. Actually, it's not true. I'm not bored. I've been reading St. Thomas Aquinas and some other stuff today. Been getting back into that old school Jesuit critical thinking philosophy stuff. It's actually been kind of nice.
What color is your walker that you're getting?
Hey, well, I have like 3 canes because I've had so many damn injuries. Oh, it's right there. And speaking of canes, my 13-year-old coonhound took off across the pastures into the swamp again. And it's been raining for like 2 hours steady, so he'll be coming back limping.
That'll also smell great.
And he pisses me off. I can't go chasing after him, and then he can't move the next day, and he whines all night and stayed fuck. So I give him gabapentin and CBDs trying to get his shit calmed down. When I want to just tie him up in the garage on a 6-inch lead and punish him all night, but of course, I'm not capable. My retraction. I was not talking about Jeremy Boring that I didn't like last week. It was Michael Knowles that I can't stand.
Okay.
So I feel bad. I cannot stand Michael Knowles. I can't watch him. I don't like his voice. I know he's a smart dude. I don't like his voice. I hate his hair.
He comes across as the most arrogant one of the hosts, I believe.
By far the most arrogant one of them. And Ryan, his whole thing, a lot of his stuff, not Matt Ryan, Matt
Walsh.
Why do I always say Matt Ryan? Matt Walsh, a lot of his arrogance is shtick, of course. I don't think Michael Knowles is a shtick, and he reminds me of those assholes like from the Ravenna district in Seattle that I went to grad school with up there in Seattle. Like they were all like rabbi's sons and stuff like that, and filthy rich, and dressing with the little sweater vests and all that kind of thing. And he reminds me of those assholes. And I cannot fucking stand the guy, and I know he's smart. But it's just everything about him is my antithesis. And he's not a man.
Sometimes
he tries to be a man by smoking cigars and, doing that whole thing and all that. It's like, you're not a man. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it.
But where he's funny is when he gets into discussions with the extreme opposite side. There's 2 things I don't know if you've seen. One, did you see the discussion that he got into with the left-wing activist that talked about how women didn't talk about women, talk about birthing. It was about a discussion about abortion, talk about birthing persons. And Knowles kind of tore her apart. And then he was on the, I don't know if you're familiar with the Whatever podcast.
I'm familiar with it. Yes. I've seen snippets on YouTube and stuff.
Yeah. The guy, he usually brings in girls that are, how do I say this, a little bit more fast and loose, that have their OnlyFans pages and stuff. And Knowles is on there, and these girls that have their OnlyFans pages, and we're talking about how they're at the age of 22 and they don't want to get married till they're 30, but they want a man that makes high 6 figures and is 6'4" and well built and all this other stuff. And watching Knowles in his arrogance just absolutely take them apart, because they're not prepared for that level of arrogance from anybody, especially when he can be rational about stuff. I said, Knowles can grate on the nerves sometimes, but it's a matter of if you catch him in the right context, it could be
I think
fun.
he's brilliant. I'm not notice I didn't say anything about his intellectual capacity or his ability to debate. I think the only one that's probably his equal on the debate ring on that whole deal is Shapiro, of course. And his
I think
ability
Shapiro's superior to everybody on that debate ring.
he is, and his ability to dismantle an argument is superior to almost anybody I've ever listened to. Jordan Peterson, I think, but I don't know that they would ever debate about anything. I've heard them speak many times.
I've seen them go back and forth a couple of times on Christianity versus Judaism, but it's very small tidbits. It's not a lot.
Right. And there's not a lot to debate there. I mean, it's just a matter of, well, I won't get into my spiritual beliefs, but no, I just wanted to throw that out there and apologize to Jeremy Boring because I know he listens to this podcast. Yeah.
I like Jeremy. Jeremy's a very down to earth kind of guy.
Yes. So you're probably going, what's Coop's problem? It's Michael Knowles. I probably should have said that up front.
Well, you got to remember, even Ben Shapiro says that Michael Knowles he calls him I believe the execrable Michael Knowles, and says he's not a friend. Now, most of that is shtick, but still, it's funny.
I'm sure it's shtick. They seem to like each other quite well. I did watch the question deal on YouTube when they went back and forth. That was pretty interesting. They were good, but anyway, yeah. So I just wanted to clear that up. And there was something else from last week that I want to talk about, but that's all right. So we talked about the biggest narcissists in the world, and we talked about their apologists who are almost as big a narcissist because they're just virtue signaling assholes, and there's absolutely no way to defend yourself about this. Go to your shows. Go open up a club and allow them in there every night. But if you allow somebody under the age of 18, I hope you get shut down and go to jail. Period. You deserve it.
Yep.
Let's see. Want to go into? How about you want to talk about our boy Trump and what's going on with him and DeSantis, or you want to go into the banking situation?
Well, there's multiple things we can talk about with Trump.
Yeah, there sure is.
There's two paths here. One of which he's taken, which is stupid. One of which I think I got to give him credit for being a little bit smarter than I originally thought. I think he has completely outmaneuvered the Manhattan District Attorney, Alvin Bragg. I think Bragg wanted to do something, but Bragg wasn't even decided. So Trump kind of preemptively said, they're gonna arrest me. And he did it for a couple of reasons. He put the DA on the defensive there by, everybody starts coming after him saying, hey, this is an old crime, you can't indict him, all this other stuff. The second thing it did from a political standpoint, and this is where Trump's not quite the moron everybody thinks he is sometimes. He noted that after the raid on Mar-a-Lago, his numbers with primary voters went up. And they started coming down a little bit because when it's perceived as a vendetta against Trump, the Republican base rallies to him as a protective tribal effect. Well, when this came out, his numbers have shot through the roof. Now, I don't agree with that. I still don't think he should be the Republican nominee. I don't think he's the strongest. I don't think he's the smartest. I don't think he's got the best shot to beat Biden. But he very shrewdly played that game, and now Republican voters are rallying around him again, if for no other reason than to give a big throbbing middle finger to the left. So half of what he did with the arrest thing was targeted at the DA and at the left. The other half was about rallying the base to him. And he played them so thoroughly on that most of them don't even realize they got played. Now, real quick on DeSantis, he keeps calling it DeSanctimonious. First of all, dude, open a dictionary, learn what the word means. All right, you look kind of stupid.
So ridiculous.
But Trump has issued insults and gone after DeSantis. I believe there was I don't remember who did the analysis on this, but somebody did an analysis on it. He's gone after DeSantis 4 times more often than he's gone after Biden. I mean, he talked about how Charlie Crist was a decent governor of Florida, the man that DeSantis just beat by 20 points and is a Democrat. So let's take, Trump with a big grain of salt. He goes after DeSantis because DeSantis is his biggest threat. But, dude, train your fire on, act like you've been there before. You can't claim to be anti-establishment when you were the president of the United States. And you want to talk about all this stuff you wanted to do, all the stuff you want to do. I want to get rid of this person. I want to get rid of this part of the swamp. Dude, you had 4 years and you didn't do any of it. Okay, so let's take this with a rather large grain of salt.
The thing that I hope this shows, and you're right on all accounts, the fact that he okay, you could very well be right, and it crossed my mind too. This could be Trump's strategy because he's very good at it. But if he was so good at strategy, he wouldn't have lost the last election. Sorry, he had a lot of blind spots going into that. He ran a terrible campaign, in my opinion. The thing is, if this is his thing, let me rally the base by doing this, and then, folks, are you over it yet? Are you over the yet? If this guy was really into the conservative movement, cared about the Republican Party, cared about the Republic, he would stop the fuck doing this. He would stop it. He's not the guy to win the election. He's not going to win the general election. He's not going to win it. No, he's not. And he's too fucking egomaniacal to know that. I'm done. I'm over with it. Thank you for what you did, your policies, Mr. Trump, President Trump. Thank you for those policies. I'm done with your personality. I'm done with your obfuscating. I'm done with your narcissism. Stop it. Let me, I don't know if you saw some of the very, talking about, let me pull a couple of things up right here. And of course, my wonderful internet wants to reboot all the pages that I was on earlier, for reference. Fuck you. Now
it's time to restart your computer. Automatic restart.
No, it's my goddamn browser. Okay, anyway. Let me just run through some of the things he said about DeSantis in the last few days. About a week ago, he was dead as a dog. He was a dead politician. He would have been working perhaps for a law firm and doing something else. If I hadn't backed him. Yeah, maybe this guy's dead. He was dead as a doornail. I might say that. Okay, yeah, it was all you, Trump, backing him. Had nothing to do with it. My favorite is that he, of course, the DeSanctimonious, talking about how he is a very, very, what is it? A very average governor. Okay, Florida.
Probably the best governor in America.
Yeah, I mean, unarguably doing it one of the most successful states, turned a state economy around, added how many Republican voters in his tenure, in his first 2 years in office?
He won Miami-Dade. He's the first Republican to win Miami-Dade since the 60s.
Thank you. Okay, so now he's escalated that into allegations. There was some ridiculous left-wing bullshit about DeSantis perhaps hitting on young girls when he was a teacher.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, and it's all this stuff. So he talks about just in the last 2 days, Ron DeSanctimonious will probably find out about false accusation, fake stories sometime in the future before suggesting what he said was, it's probably about underage girls, or it might be a relationship with a man. Who knows? Really?
Yeah.
And this is really over. He escalated this because, DeSantis has been really kind of, he's basically saying that the DA is corrupt, that these are spurious charges. Everybody knows they are. And, it's kind of funny how high crimes and misdemeanors when a Democrat's in office don't matter, but or the attorney general, for instance, or the any of those kind of things.
Statutes of limitations.
Yeah, statutes of limitations. But DeSantis didn't say anything, but he did mention after Trump came to him saying something about, very innocently saying something about, having an extramarital affair with a porn star, la 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 la. That's as bad as DeSantis gets. And then Trump comes at him with both barrels, accusing him of basically being homosexual and being a pedophile. All right, Trump voters, have you had enough of this guy? All right, what's more important to you? What's more important to you? Getting a very capable leader in the White House in 2 years, or in a year, a little over a year, I guess. And or putting up with more of this stupid bullshit, this unelectable personality. I've had it. I really have. I'm not even going to apologize for it anymore. And if Trump voters want to come at us and say, "Oh, you know what?" Yeah, from day one they've gone after him. They've gone after him since 2016 hard. They've been on the radar of trying to get him prosecuted, thrown in prison for a long time now. Okay, I get it. And it's all been bullshit and nothing stuck. And I don't think this will stick. This won't stick. This is ridiculous. This is just absolutely ridiculous. And now I heard today that there was a statement. They came out. One of the reasons the grand jury was put off for another day was because there was a statement from Trump's old lawyers saying, "Oh, Trump Trump campaign never gave me any money from the campaign at all to pay off Stormy Daniels, which would completely make everything go away immediately because there's no crime. Okay, no crime at all. But I guess just from the big picture, Russ, you got DeSantis, who is a proven leader. You got, and yeah, they're coming after him hard, but DeSantis is fearless, and he does it in a way that doesn't come across as, I don't know, to me, he's a boss. He's not crass or egocentric. He's a man's man. He's a dude, he's not, to me,
he's a lot more. So he's a lot more focused. He's a lot more disciplined in the message. He's still a fighter, but he's not he's not the whirling dervish. He's not, the Tasmanian devil destroying everything in his path.
Right.
He's much more the focused laser on this kind of stuff. Look, Trump he's demonstrating that he's this hammer that's going to go around and hit everything as if it's a nail.
Right.
He doesn't know how to use any level of discernment on this stuff. I like one other thing that DeSantis did say during the porn star comment. He said, hey, sometimes people don't want the daily drama. And it kind of is daily drama. Excuse me. With Trump, is he doesn't know, a lot of the stuff Trump brings on himself because he seeks it out, and he's so undisciplined in the way he handles things.
Right.
And so he gives so much ammunition. And look, Trump voters, he can't win the general election. I'm sorry. He turns off suburban women. And there are a lot of those, whether you like it or not. People say, I don't think Biden could have gotten that many votes. Look, folks, I'm out here among them. I don't think you understand just how many folks hate Trump. He drives turnout against him as much as he drives turnout for him.
Yeah,
politics should be about making it very hard to vote for your opponent and very easy to vote for you. Trump will make it very easy to vote, not only to vote against him, but I don't know if scare is the right word, but he drives turnout against him. And unlike, say, Mitt Romney wasn't driving turnout against him. Now, he didn't drive turnout for him either.
Right.
People did not come out to say, I got to get out there to vote against Mitt Romney, or I got to get out there to vote against George W. Bush. That's not what happened. All right. But people will go out of their way to vote against Trump. And in certain swing states, that's just going to be enough to do it. I'm sorry. That's just reality.
Yeah. Great point you just brought up. I was going to bring this up too, is I dabbled in national politics in my 20s and got to, took some classes and did some stuff. I'll just put it to you that way. And there is a very well known, not so much in the general population, but within the politician community, is it's the 2 votes clause, where you get a candidate like Trump, it's actually not losing a vote, you're losing 2 votes. And that's the kind of candidate he is. DeSantis is not going to do that. DeSantis is going to gain a lot of votes. So I guarantee you that a lot of those people, not only are they not going to vote for Trump, they're going to vote against him because they hate him so much. DeSantis doesn't have any of that kind of rancor. There's a lot of people that hate his politics. There's a lot of people that we were talking about at the beginning of the podcast that are trying to paint him as a homophobe and, a transphobe and all this stuff, when in fact he's a champion for the parents and the businesses and treating people fairly. The Disney thing where he got rid of Disney's special legal clause where they were able to basically
it's the SeaWorld now. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. They had their own hegemony down there, where they were able to make up their own tax rules and laws and everything else. I heard, who was it? Which politician was it? Oh, it was freaking Mike Pence, boiled potatoes, Mike Pence, who talked about how that was an overreach of government. Really, Mike Pence? Isn't government supposed to make an even playing field? It's not about, it's equality, right? Equity, equality, those are 2 different words. Well, there was no equity. Yep. There was no equality. No, I'm sorry. What I meant to say is Disneyland had plenty of equity because they could make up their own rules where all the other corporations could not. Being a libertarian, I would prefer government never have to do something like that, but sometimes it's very appropriate for government to step in. People want government to step in on things all the time when it comes to, supporting labor laws or acts for, you name it, affirmative action laws and stuff like that to stick up for the little people. Well, guess what? Guess what DeSantis did? He said, this isn't fair. Was it personal a little bit with Disney and their woke politics and stuff like that? Probably. Did it? I think if anything, what it did was Disney probably just they probably shadowed themselves. They high pointed themselves on the hill. They created a big silhouette with that so that it was more noticeable. And when they're criticizing all the time and coming and attacking, I get that. But all he did, and he survived it all. The whole "don't say gay" bill. Yeah, because
It
that's
doesn't say that in the bill.
What's that?
It doesn't say that in the bill.
It doesn't. It has nothing to do with that. It's the same type of freaking virtue signaling bullshit that people are saying with, they're banning drag shows. It's not what happened in Florida. It has nothing to do with "don't say gay." It has nothing to do with that. It's the teaching of alternate lifestyles and sexual behaviors to children in an inappropriate age, in an inappropriate way in the public school without parental consent. Oh, wow, what an evil guy, sticking up for those kids and the parents again. Wow, what a terrible human being. You can't
even bring up heterosexual sexuality in Florida up to the age of 8. He's not saying you can't say gay. He's saying no sexuality, period, before the age of 8 in schools without parental permission.
Right. There you go. Hello. Again, equality, equity, two different things. Okay. I don't get it. I don't get why people are so blind to this stuff. Well, I actually do. Like I've said a million times, the people that are protesting this stuff or virtue signaling are the fucking stupid kids that used to sit in the back of the class and keep their mouths shut. And now they've got platforms and they can get away with it because the slippery slope was, dude, it was miles up the hill, miles back that way, up the mountain. On top of Mount Rainier was when we pressed. We're in the freaking Marianas Trench.
It used to be leave us alone, which people have said that's reasonable. Now it's celebrate us or you're a bigot. Yeah.
I got into a discussion, kind of an argument recently about using government funds here in Washington state and federal funds by flying the pride flag everywhere in government buildings and how inappropriate that is. And it's like, why is that inappropriate to represent your population? Okay, number one, you're not representing the population. If you had any idea what the origin of the pride flag was, you would understand it has nothing to do with that. It has to do with a very, very left-wing communist anarchist movement. That's where the pride flag came from, number one. Number two, it's celebrating who you fuck. That's weird. The American flag is supposed to represent everybody. Has it always in history represented everybody that's lived in the borders of this country? Absolutely damn not. Absolutely not. And my libertarian side says, no, I get it. I get it that people feel disconnected and all of that. And I've had to fight for and scrap for and be on the downside of history. But when you're letting such a tiny tail wag the entire huge German Shepherd, it's time to pull your head out of your ass. Smell the coffee.
Yep.
It's wake up time. It's been wake up time. And I never in a million years would have thought in my 20s and 30s that I'd be this freaking pissed or see a culture that pissed me off this much left and right. I never in a million years would have thought that, especially when I dissociated myself from the Republican Party all those years ago because of being a Christian spiritual guy. I still was uncomfortable with the religious right coming over and taking over a large part of the party. I've told that story many times on here, but I got to tell you, it wasn't like everything they said was incorrect. Okay. A lot of people saw stuff coming that I didn't. I thought, be nice, play nice, and
but people aren't like that.
It playing nice doesn't work,
they take it as weakness and then they can run you over.
And that's exactly what's happened. And people who try to fight back, even in a very, very measured and logical way, I labeled every stupid damn term on planet Earth. Here's the thing, folks. I just want people to shut the fuck up about stuff that they should shut the fuck up about. I'm not on here talking about my balls and where they end up and all of that stuff every time we're on a podcast, nor would I. People who
although your balls have come up a little bit more frequently than I'd like.
Well, I do shave them. They're kind of nice. But moving along, me, Russ. I'm actually I'm a chaste human being. I don't talk about my relationships in intimate detail ever. I think it's at best gross and at worst, I don't know, perverted. I just don't. That stuff, I guess I read too many Louis L'Amour, Westerns as a young kid where all the protagonists were men who were educated even if they weren't formally schooled and chaste and, slow to anger, but once anger beat the crap out of you, and reverential to women and all that. I guess I still have that old fashioned notion about how men are supposed to be in this life. I failed at that, but I strive every day. And I just don't get this. It's way past time to stop. I don't know. You're a champion of getting on there and telling and putting people in their place. I admit that I'm not as good at you. We've talked about this a million times in this podcast, because this is an emotional thing with me. These things are emotional things with me. And when I'm emotional, I'm not, that's my intellectual best, to say the least. My Jedi is replaced by freaking Steve Buscemi or some shit. I don't know what the hell's going on, but I can't. I go from Liam Neeson to Nick Cage like that. You know what I'm saying?
I think I've told you I engage for 3 reasons. Excuse me. First, most people are emotional and they can't handle it, so it's fun to go after them in that way. And then the next 2 reasons are kind of intertwined. One is, I believe, just letting them run amok is surrender. And then kind of a 2A reason off of that is, I know that when I speak up, there are a dozen people who would like to speak up who won't. So for all the folks out there who are like, you're the only one out there talking. Yeah, but I'm not the only one that agrees with me. Okay, there are people out there who do, and they won't speak up. So I'm going to be their voice. And a good 50% of the time, maybe more. And Coop, you and I talked about this just before the show. What I'm saying, the person I'm talking to is not necessarily the audience for what I'm saying.
Right.
It's a matter of, who do I think is reading this? Who do I think is engaged? And what impact can I have on them? Because the person I'm talking to is usually ideologically rigid and won't listen. Now, I've run into a few folks who are willing to have a constructive dialogue, and we can go back and forth and actually talk to each other. But most people want to act like an ass. And if that happens, I promise I can be a bigger prick than you can be every single time.
Yes, you can. And yeah, we've talked about it.
I'm proud of it.
It's a chink in my armor. I can only take it so far. When somebody's fucking stupid, then I'm just going to let them know you're fucking stupid, and just stop breathing. Stop breathing. Stop it. Oxygen.
See, that's why I got to know when the few times I'll needle you online, I gotta fine tune that a little bit to make sure that I don't completely push you over the edge. Like when I bring up, college football, for example.
Which I think we should probably end the podcast on a little discussion of that. Oh yeah,
lightheartedness.
No, you don't needle me. It's always kind of funny. I see your stuff and I'm always laughing because I know your debate skills well, my friend. And yeah, like I said, I've got some fine debate skills myself. I tend to be a little bit more of a blunt force instrument than you, but it's good. And I guess I sit there taking the time to type all that out to somebody that I know, like the old man would say, I'm trying to teach a pig how to sing. And then the pig just gets irritated and I look stupid doing it. That's still in my head. And so if I'm sitting there going, after the second time I say something, if you don't get it, then it's just like, shut the fuck up and go away. That's just, but that's my personality. And I'm not always proud of that. I'm working on it. I'm doing better, actually. I can say I'm doing better. It's something I want to do better with, especially, in line with my spiritual beliefs. It's not always a good thing to be that person. And I have noticed, especially in the last, 8-9 months of my life, when I can just sit back and be quiet and kind of look at things a little bit better, that good things happen. Good things happen. I do get different perspectives on things, and I see people in a different way, in a different light. But when I see people who should know better, who actually I know do know better intellectually, and they don't care because they're lost in their, whether they're,
They're stubborn.
Yeah, it might be sociopaths, might be narcissists, or might just be really egocentric, or might just be really insecure. A lot of people are incredibly insecure. That's one thing I've come to realize in my later life, is that what I've taken to be, perhaps sociopathy or narcissism or any of those things is really just a really serious case of insecurity. And, saying those things to get reactions feeds people's souls. I guess I've had that in me a few times in my life, but I'd rather just people just leave me the hell alone so I can be with my thoughts and my books and talk to people who really appreciate sharing things with me back and forth that matter. You know what I mean?
Like I said, I'd be happy to leave people alone if they would leave me alone, but unfortunately, their stupidity will infect others. I'm a lot of times I'm looking for that, when I'm engaging, that one person out of 50 who will actually internalize what's being said. I've had my mind changed on a few things. I remember one thing I was thinking, this is going to seem trivial, but it's really not. This was, I don't know, 25, 30 years ago, probably. I don't know if you remember the Supreme Court case involving the disabled golfer who wanted to use a golf cart.
Yeah, absolutely.
On the PGA Tour.
I sure do.
And I was on his side at first because I was like, yeah, stick it to those, elite stuck up snob golfers. And then I got into a discussion with somebody. They were like, well, look, that's the rules of the game. How would you feel if somebody with ADHD was given 4 strikes instead of 3? And that made an impact with me. And I'm like, you know what? I get it. I understand.
Yeah.
It happens every so often. But when I run into somebody who's so rigid that they can't have an actual discussion, I will do 2 things. I will play on their lack of intelligence, that is because it's clouded over by their emotionalism. And then I will needle their ego. And again, I'll have a lot of fun doing it because a lot of people don't like you said, they're very insecure. They don't like having their sense of self come under a spotlight. People think that they are a little bit more cool than they really are. And that's a facade that they show the world. And so people have tried to, use these kind of flanking maneuvers on me, and it doesn't work because I meet most of that shit head on. And it's one of the reasons why I'm so popular, why people love me so much.
You are really, really well loved. You are incredibly well loved.
Well, one of the a quick story. This happened in college. My best friend in the world, a guy named Pete. He and I, we learned in college we don't never need to be roommates. We were roommates our freshman year, and that went badly. But at one point, we got into an argument, and he had finally pinned me down, was over top of me, and I just looked up at him and smiled, and I thought his brain was going to explode. It's stuff like that because, a lot of times I'll do something because I know it'll make you mad, and I know at that point I've won because I can stay rational and I can stay calm in it because I enjoy it. You're not going to bruise my ego. You're just not. I've been shot at. Okay. I don't care what you think of me. I really don't give 2 shits. Which is why some of the insults and stuff are funny to me, and I'll laugh at them. I mean, half the time people try to say something, I'll be just like, "Oh, call me poopy face next time. That works so much better."
You're right.
And so it's fun for me. Like I said, I get it. It's a weird fetish of mine. A lot of people aren't like that. I enjoy the hell out of it.
You're good at it too. You're good at it. I do enjoy reading your repartee. It's not really repartee. It's more like just watching you stab somebody to death with your foil over and over and over and over until they bleed out. But that's okay.
With a knitting needle.
You and I would be wicked debate partners. Yeah, if we have different. I'd be the.
Did you ever?
It's kind of like
You hear Ron White talk about his debate club experience?
Yes, I do remember.
Yeah, when he said, I looked at my opponent and said, "Yeah, well, fuck you." I thought I had won. Do you want to talk about the college basketball versus college football thing at all, or?
I don't know. What you want to save that till next one, or so we'll wait till March.
Just so everybody knows, Coop appreciates a good beauty contest and the crowning of a prom queen, which is what college football is.
You're fucking so stupid. See, there we go, right there.
The first 2 rounds of March Madness for college basketball showed why college basketball is superior to college football, because you actually have to win it on the court.
False premise.
And there are teams that would never get a shot if it was limited the way college football is. Princeton, Fairleigh Dickinson, Furman, who actually made an impact in the overall tournament. At the start of the college football season, I can give you the 10 teams who are going to be in contention, and the other 150 teams have no shot.
No, you can't.
When they actually have a true
No,
playoff system, which they're moving towards, in fairness, they're moving towards it. But
Where did
until
TCU start?
then,
Where did
it will be
TCU
nothing
start
more than a
this year?
popularity contest.
Where did TCU start ranked, and where did they end up?
Yeah, that's one
you.
out of the last how
Thank
many?
you. Thank you.
That's
Next.
one out of the last how many?
Thank you. Next.
Yeah,
Just saying.
next one out of the last how many? You can't point to the exception and say it proves the rule.
Sure. Washington Huskies weren't even figured in the top 25 because they had such a shit coach and shit year last year. Then they get this new coach from Fresno State, North Dakota State, Kyle DeBoer, and they finished number 7. Arguably could have been in the FBS, certainly should have been in the Pac-12 playoff. Yeah, shit does happen in college football all the time, my friend. Happens all the time. Not to the extent, but
in college football, unless you are Alabama or Ohio State, when you lose one game, you're out.
Here's the thing. I'm fine with that. Here's the thing. You're predicating the entire worth of a sport based on the tournament system. That's insane. That's one
predicating the entire worth of the sport or whether or not they actually crown a champion.
Of course they crown a champion. Now, did they used to? Fuck no. It used to get
No, they don't. They crown a prom queen. They crown a winner of a popularity contest.
They have a playoff. They have an FBS. They have a playoff system.
They have a playoff where you have to be popular enough to get in.
No, you have
it's
to.
It's like saying that you're the coolest kid of the party where only a certain number of invitations went out.
You have to either be undefeated pretty much or lose to one of the undefeated teams to get in. I don't see anything wrong with that.
No, if the way it should work is if you are a conference champion, regardless of the conference, you should be able to get into the playoffs.
No, here's what's
one thing.
You're going to get people.
If Alabama, if Ohio State, if UCLA, USC are so awesome, if they are so towering over the sport, then they should have no problem beating up on the smaller programs. They should say, hey, UCF, Boise State, come on in and we'll whip your ass. But they won't do that because they're afraid of falling like Michigan did to Appalachian State a few years ago. Or the way that what are you shaking your head at?
His alma mater. He cherry picks his alma mater. The one time his alma mater's done shit ever.
My alma mater is also, they took Penn State to overtime. They took Tennessee to overtime. They've beaten the University of South Carolina. They've beaten the University of Miami. They beat Texas A&M. Was it Texas A&M this year or at Texas Tech? I think it was Texas A&M.
I think it was Texas Tech.
But, most of the bigger schools won't schedule the smaller schools. What Michigan did, they usually try the cupcake thing at first. And Michigan at least tried to say, well, we're scheduling the champion cupcake, not realizing that they might actually have a game on their hands. By the time they realized it was a little bit too late. And that's what a lot of the bigger schools do. Alabama is not going to schedule Boise State. Penn State is probably not going to schedule Troy State because they know that they get nothing out of it. They try to run up the score, and if they can't, then they're going to be out of it. If, let's say Ohio State scheduled Troy State, and they only beat them 31-28, it's still a win, but the closeness of that win knocks Ohio State out of the playoff race. And that's absurd. They would have won, but still be knocked out of the playoff race because of the closeness of the score. Where the NFL is superior is if you have the right record with the number of slots, you can get into the playoffs. And even a lower seeded team can make a run to win the Super Bowl. In college basketball, you can get a Davidson, you can get a Gonzaga, you can get a VCU, and they can make a legit run at the national title.
So many logical fallacies here. I can't even count them. Let's see.
Well, why not try?
I would agree. I would like to see him expand it. And I thank God they at least have a playoff system because there was a popularity contest back in the day. And one of my biggest bugaboos, and I mentioned it to you on Facebook, was the 91 Washington Huskies. Maybe the greatest college football team that ever stepped foot on a turf, had to share the national championship with those punk bitches in Miami. They would have hung 30 on them that year with Steve Entman fucking sacking the quarterback 90 times that game. Here's the thing.
If they'd gotten into a game with them, they could have proven that on the field.
I agree with that. They would, but now they would do that for the last many years. Now that would have happened. Here's and it's superior. Hold on just a sec. Two things. You're completely living out, of course, selective criteria here, that the NCAA tournament has a selection committee and they seed teams by popularity contest. As well as I do, many teams get fucked in that seeding because they get a lower seeding. That Gonzaga, it used to happen to Gonzaga all the fucking time. I'm a Gonzaga alum. And I can tell you, it used to happen. My very favorite Washington Huskies team that was like 25-3 or something like that got like a 10th seed or something in the tournament, which fucked them off too. Then they made it to the Elite Eight. Number one, there is a selection committee. Seeding matters. It's huge. It's a huge part. Brackets and seeding matters. And that is a popularity contest. Number two, comparing it to pro football is just fucking stupid because pro football, parity. College football, you got how many teams? 125 teams or whatever in the FCS?
I think it's 156, I believe. I could be wrong.
Yeah. And the disparity between one and the guy down here is, dude, that's like me going and fighting like my neighbor's junior high school daughter. Okay. That's the Alabama and the goddamn whatever it is down here, Akron Zips, or I'm sure they're better than that. You know what I'm talking about? The disparity is so vast that you can't even begin to compare it to pro football, which pro football is the most boring fucking thing on planet Earth compared to college football, but that's another discussion.
But there's 2 points, and this is where you go wrong. First of all, with regards to the NCAA tournament and the selection committee, you could talk about seeding, and I kind of agree with the seeding. I understand that. I'll accept that point. But the thing is, the teams get in. If you're a conference champion, you get in. Regardless of what your seed is, you still have to win on the court. You can't just say, well, in college football, it's those 4 teams are selected, and that's the only ones that play. In college basketball, if you are selected, you are on the court. You have to play on the court to prove it. What was your second point that you brought up? What was your second point that you just brought up a second ago?
Pro football versus
parity. Yeah, the parity thing. The reason there's no parity in college football is precisely because of the popularity contest. Because when Alabama wins, they get better recruits, and they get better recruits, they win more, and they get better recruits. It's a self-licking ice cream cone. As long as you are popular for a little bit, you get better recruits. That's why the Akron Zips or whoever the hell they are don't get any recruits, because they don't get a chance to play the big boys. The big other recruits might want to go there if they actually got a chance to play Alabama or Tennessee or Georgia or USC on a fairly regular basis. You might actually get better games, and maybe this transfer portal will do something about that. See, Coop went silent because he was just overawed by the firmness of my argument.
Yeah, I was really firm. No, there wasn't any argument there. You didn't say anything.
I refuted your points. That was what I did.
My point.
Yeah, because you got to win on the court. You don't have to win on the field in college football in order to make the tournament.
Really, you have to win. You pretty much have to be undefeated, dude.
Yeah, well, you mean like UCF was a few years ago and didn't get into the tournament?
Yeah, and who did UCF play during the year compared to?
So they didn't play another popularity contest team, so they didn't deserve a shot. Sounds to me like folks were afraid of them.
Oh, so strength of schedule shouldn't matter. So if I play fucking Portland State and Montana State's actually pretty good. Let's see, Idaho State.
Portland State is not allowed to play Alabama. How can you judge this?
And all of that, then I should. And if I'm undefeated, I should get into the tournament. That's insane.
Yes, because how can you compare strength of schedule when the other teams won't actually play them? The SEC, for example, is all incestuous.
Oh well,
you can talk about how great you are picking up women if you go to a family reunion where you got nothing but your cousins.
Another flawed premise, but that's okay. That's okay. That's a false analogy, actually, not a flawed premise.
No, not really, because again, they're not actually playing outside of their incestuous family, but they're still proclaiming it's a strength of schedule. That doesn't really make a lot of sense.
If you pay attention to college football, and if you actually followed like a Power 5 team, or were a lifelong fan like me, you would know that in the early season, there's always, most teams do a CBA or CBBA schedule, where these smaller town teams, these smaller colleges get to play the big guys, because it's a warm up for the big colleges, and that's kind of their way to earn themselves. There's been a lot of colleges who have earned themselves onto the starting stage, so to speak, by following that formula. And Appalachian State, your alma mater, they've actually got some respect in the college football world. I'm not gonna lie. Remember Marshall's run a few years ago? Yeah.
Did either of them make the college football playoffs?
Well, there was no college football playoffs when that happened, to be quite honest with you. So
do you expect that Marshall or Appalachian State, regardless of what their record is, will ever make the college football playoffs?
I think it could happen, but they need to expand the schedule.
I think that you're smoking something that you should be giving to your dog.
I think Marshall could, sure.
No,
But they do take a lot into account, size of the school and all that. I get it. You want everything to be Gene Hackman fucking on, on the hardwood and have Dennis Hopper show up drunk at the fucking game. I get it. But that's
champions win.
College
Champions win in
football-
real life, not at the ballot box.
College football is a gladiator sport too, my friend. So the more having more games where you have those schools going against the big guys like that, it's not even smart. It's actually dangerous. You know that as well as I do.
Well, it's not badminton. If they can't handle the danger out there, maybe they shouldn't be playing.
Oh my God, you are defending tree hockey right now.
No, I'm defending that if they're gladiators get in the
Which is-
arena to face the lion.
Basketball is only flopola, second to soccer, your favorite sport. So I'm just saying.
Soccer is only my favorite sport when I'm invested in the team that I'm watching. I am unlike other things. I can't actually watch two soccer teams I don't give a shit about.
So are you a big fan of Ted Lasso? I'm just curious.
I haven't had a chance to see it. I need to see it at some point.
You know what's funny? All this mirth, actually more mirth. I actually really enjoy the show, and I'm kind of surprised. Like Matt Walsh and a lot of these people are coming out just condemning the shit out of it, saying it's terrible. I actually enjoy it. It's feel good, blah blah bubblegum stuff, but it's I enjoy the premise. I do. I got. I mean, I'm not.
People have said that I need to watch it. I plan to at some point. I just haven't gotten around to it because of the few shows I do watch, and then I've got other responsibilities around here that I have to take care of. So my grown-up TV time is not as expansive as it might be if I was a hermit.
For the record, everybody, I really enjoy college basketball. I don't watch a lot of it during the year. I'm not somebody that's going to stop and watch if a basketball game's on. If my college, which I am a Gonzaga grad, but I'm more of a UW, University of Washington fan.
I thought you'd be a Timmy fan.
Yeah, Bill.
Timmy.
Yeah, no, hated that guy.
Timmy is setting the world on fire with the Zags.
No, I know. I'm totally teasing. I really enjoy watching Gonzaga. I lived in the same dorm that those assholes did in college, so I never really.
Hey,
it was
the first NCAA bracket I ever won was in 1999, and that's because I had picked Gonzaga to go to the Elite Eight, and they were the team that took me to the prize that I got.
Nice. Yeah, no, you can't argue the success of that program. It's amazing. Being a Washington Husky my whole life in heart and soul, though, when their program's been down for so fucking long, and it's never had a huge zenith. We had a few wonderful years. You remember famously the year when Jimbo and I took the kids to Bataan Memorial Death March.
Yep.
And they got completely stoned by the referees, and Jimbo and I were in we lied to the kids about what we were doing, went to the bowling alley and had some beers and watched on a shitty little 19-inch screen and watched the Huskies get ripped off by the that was like the last year that I really felt a lot of passion for college basketball. But I usually, even in the Army, I would take 2 days leave the first 2 days of the tournament because it's such a great day. It's so much fun.
Well, just two things real quick. First of all, I may have gone to Appalachian State, but having grown up in Charlotte, North Carolina, I was a UNC Charlotte 49ers fan for a long time. Boy, does their program down. It sucks. It has been bad for a long time. There were the run of a few years where they're always in the tournament, and now people barely remember they have a basketball team. But you talked about watching the NCAA tournament. Let me take you back to the way it is in the South. In the South, the first day of the ACC tournament was always on a Friday. And in school, no matter what, school did not happen the day of the ACC tournament. Every teacher brought a TV into the room, and you watched the ACC tournament, whether it was elementary school, junior high school, or high school. People didn't believe me until they got to the South and saw it the way it is.
I got
When
no
the
problem with
ACC
that.
tournament started, everybody watched it in school. People took work off. It was an absolute festival. Is not the right word. Maybe religious revival.
Yeah, no, I've lived in the South, and there's a bunch of stuff like that nobody else quite gets about the South. And even if I'm not into it, I really appreciate, I don't know, I just really appreciate kind of traditional culture that embraces stuff like that. I mean, even growing up in a small farming logging community at the base of Mount Rainier, like I did, I know this might sound stupid, but it's not. There, you got 2 days, I think it was 2 days, it might have been more, every fall where you did not have to have like a teacher signed slip to miss school. That was the first day of hunting season. And that was one day during the run of what they used to call the Puyallup Fair, which is the Western or the Washington State Fair, which is a huge fair in Puyallup. It's a phenomenon. I still like to go every year. I have so many great memories of my beloved mom, Johanna, and I going there when I was a little kid together, and then with classmates and family and taking girlfriends in high school, whatever. You actually got a day to go to the fair. Because it's an agricultural and logging community, and it was a big deal. And yet you got a day off from school to do that and go hunting. And I know it's not quite the same thing, but I mean it is. It's just a reflection of the culture of those communities.
Yeah.
It's cool. I love stuff like that.
If you're not in that community, you don't understand it.
I hate NASCAR. I think NASCAR is the dumbest, most boring fucking thing in the world.
You and I agree on that.
I'll watch the what's the FX1. I'll watch that because it's crazy. Those guys are suicide demons, but
bunch of rednecks going in a circle making a left turn does not impress me.
And just the people, and I feel the same way about rodeo. You cannot put my ass to a rodeo. I've been to rodeos, and in my youth, like in my 20s, we're gonna go to the Pendleton Rodeo because all the girls are so hot. We're gonna go. Yeah, but oh my God, hey, you go, hey, do you know your ABCs? And they peter out right at about
B.
T. You read my mind. It's supposed to be a good joke. Anyway,
I'm not going to make the joke I was going to about your mind.
But I hate rodeos. I hate the culture of rodeos. I hate the people who go to rodeos. 98% of the people in the stands wearing ropers or fucking, strip mall cowboys. I don't like the abuse of the animals. I know that sounds soft-hearted for a farm boy, but I think it's weird. I think some of it's just weird. I don't like it. God bless you if you like to go. I'm not going to judge you, but it's a part of the culture I don't like. But it's a lifestyle with people, because there's a practical applicability to it. My cousins back in South Dakota and all that, they're all ranchers, and that was a way of the cowboys honing their skills and doing something fun to pass the lonely time and make some money and stuff like that. I get it, just not my fucking thing. You're never going to see me within a million miles of a rodeo. It's like blah, not my thing.
I went to get food a few nights back, and on the TV was the rodeo, and I just remember somehow being bored. I couldn't even watch that. I'm like, I don't get it.
Oh, on TV, it's even a million times worse. At least live, you can look around the stands and people watch.
Well, it's like folks who watch poker tournaments on TV. I'm watching somebody else play cards.
So weird, dude. I was thinking, I was brainstorming with a buddy one time about stuff like this, like weird reality shit based on stuff like that, because they have those strongman competitions, and they've got a lot of weird shit. Like now on Netflix, all these like Korean weird,
the Squid Game,
yeah, things like that, or like our Kino. I would like to have like a bingo reality show where you follow a bunch of like blue-haired old women who are like bingo professionals in the bingo circuit. You imagine
today
that?
On mopping the floor.
Today on Janitor XL. Oh shit, that's the biggest turd I've ever seen.
Let me see if I can get this vomit stain off the floor. I'm gonna have to scrub extra hard here.
How about, or a buddy of mine, I think he listens to the podcast at times. We sat around talking about the worst video games ever. I think we even might have had a talk about this way back at the beginning of our podcast, but we came up with some really good ones. My favorite contribution, my favorite two competitions were Sim Nursing Home, where you're running around going, oh no, the kitten puzzle is missing 2 pieces. Oh shit, Mrs. Jones lost her dentures in the ambrosia. So maybe you could turn that into a TV show. And then of course my other one was Sim Cheerleader, which would have been the terrible, getting drunk and getting date raped, and getting leg rash from a dirty razor, and just terrible stuff like that. His was, oh God forgive me, John Denver Flight Simulator.
Oh God.
And Jason, if you're listening, buddy, that one's for you. But yeah, so bad video games. That got me thinking about some of the shows that you see, like late night, the famous late night ESPN shows and stuff like that. I actually was flipping the channels, and there was a bartending challenge show where they had dudes like making mixed drinks all fancy, like Tom Cruise did in Cocktail, and trying to make them accurately and as quickly as possible. I'm like, This is a TV show. Really? Really?
Well, it's because they have to fill up the space. There's not 24 hours worth of shit, but they got to fill up the space somehow.
Well, it's weird, dude. And with streaming now, like, okay, I watch a lot of YouTube when I'm working on stuff or studying. Like, I'll either have some nice music, or instead of listening to podcasts on my phone now, since I'm home a lot, I'll have podcasts on YouTube. I'll just kind of enjoy watching Corolla chop it up with his buddies, or whatever.
Yep.
And it puts a new dimension on it to watch Matt Walsh be smarmy and keep a straight face, and Ben Shapiro to crack himself up. They have this channel, which is really cool. When I'm meditating or relaxing, sometimes I'll put it on. It's just pardon me, it's tourist cameras from all over the world. So it just kind of keeps flashing to a different city or a different beautiful spot all over the world with beautiful, like, classical music in the background. It's very relaxing, ridiculously relaxing. I know, I'm weird. But I was thinking, what if you had the same thing, but it was strip clubs all over the world? And it kept just
That's called YouPorn.
Bangkok. No, but this would be, but you keep it, you could actually do this, a little bit more cleanly. Bangkok, and yeah, you're right. They got that chatterbait and stuff like that, but it'd be like gentlemen's clubs. It'd be a good way for these clubs to advertise. I'm telling you, I might have a little thing going on here.
I think I've got an idea for the next competition. The sun lotion challenge. See how quickly you can lather somebody up while they're baking on the beach.
Yeah, I go down the rabbit hole sometimes on Facebook when I'm laying there and I can't sleep and I'm watching reels, and I'll watch those stupid videos and stuff like that. And I can't believe how many of them are about people who are pretending to live in a house together that are just fake, like hurting each other, kind of like Jackass, or like families who are like always hitting each other with pies and doing pranks on each other and stuff to get attention.
Yeah, well, I've seen the one like they cover each other with glitter. You seen those?
Yeah, the big cop guy that has that weird laugh and wears his hat backwards and then has like the milk or something that splashes all the time. Yeah, I've seen that one. And it's like there's a million of them. Yeah, it's just, and I go down the rabbit holes, and then it's like after about 5 minutes, I'm like, stop, because I'm not really into my phone. I'm only on it a little bit during the day and at night when I can't sleep. Mostly just sits there, does nothing because
those blue screens are known for helping you get some shut eye.
Well, I got an app that cuts the blue screen thing down. But anyway, I don't know how we got down this rabbit hole. But yeah, there's
we went from college football to let's talk about tourist cams on the beach.
Tourist cams
folks
on
out there in
beach,
podcast land, this is what you are listening for.
like Rio beaches and some of those cool little beaches in Eastern Europe. That'd be kind of a good tourism cam. If you know what I'm talking about.
I do.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm.
It used to be the poor man's Playboy flipping through National Geographic.
Oh yeah, or sitting there and just squinting through the lines, the scrambled line.
I've never done that, but I hear that every once in a while you can catch something going on.
That was a nipple. I swear to God. No, it wasn't. I swear to God, that was a nipple. I remember those.
I think we probably reached the end of our day.
I think so. Anything else for our listeners out there? I wanted to let longtime listener supporter Jen P know that I did almost none of that. I was consciously trying to avoid the pen clicking while I got animated. I think I did pretty good. So anyway, my hound still hasn't come back and the sun's going down here. So
I want to go look for him and make sure he's not rolling in cow shit.
No, yeah, he did that. And then I want to be pissed at him, of course, and give him a swat in the hiney and make him go lay in his bed. But of course, I'll be like, oh, come on, let's go take a shower.
Yeah, you're a big softy.
I know.
I'd be mad. I'm a big softy with the animals too sometimes. So
I'll be mad. The poor guy, he's going to be 14 this year. And because he goes out so much, even though he eats a lot, he went from being chubby to, you can see he almost looks abused now. You can see his hip bones and his ribs and stuff like that. And he's really powering down. So I'm probably not going to have another year with him. So I just, it's not in me to even stay mad at him for more than 10 seconds.
I get it. My yellow lab ranger, that last few months, I probably should have put him down before I did, but I ended up waiting until after his 14th birthday. He had lost muscle tone in his head, and it looked like he was, kind of almost falling in at certain points, and he could barely stand. But yeah, you can't really stay mad at him because the time is limited.
Yeah, and and I don't know. I should tie him up and not let him do that when he goes outside. I mean, we got a complaint down the street from he goes out there and bays at coyotes at night and stuff like that, and the neighbors are getting pissed. But I could not hit the neighbor's house with a rifle shot from here. That's how far apart all the houses are out here. There's only like a 2.5 mile stretch. I think there's 6 houses out here, maybe.
Yeah.
And huge amount of acreage and woods and wetlands out here. But it's, part of me is just like, geez, let him do it, but my fear is he's not going to come back one night or one morning. But it's like, obviously he loves to do this, and maybe that's okay. Maybe I just need to be resigned to that if that's what happens. But you know how much I love that dog, and I don't like to think about it, but I know this is probably my last year with him, and I'm just preparing myself for that. And a big baby. We've had a good life together though. We've had a good run. So no regrets there. And yeah, I don't mean to be Debbie Downer because he's such a good boy, and everybody on Facebook knows how much I love that dog. So he'll come back tonight and he'll look at me with those big hound eyes. And the thing about it that's amazing, Russ, is his body's failing him definitely, but that mind and his eyes are just clear and bright, and the hearing and the teeth, everything's perfect. And that almost breaks my heart more because he doesn't understand that he can't really get up off the floor sometimes very well, or he's in so much pain. I can hear him moaning at night, instead of sleeping. So like I said, I get him stoned and let him have gabapentin and Advil just to make his life a little
works.
Yeah, it does. So anyway, well, I know it's getting late on your end. Shoot, it's getting real late. It's 10 o'clock on your end there. So
yeah, I need to make sure my kitties are in bed, and
all right, man.
Make sure my wife knows I love her more than you.
I will. Yeah, that's right. Well, you only talk to me every now and again, so you see her every day, so it shouldn't be too abrupt.
Let's hope not.
All right, brother. Well, we'll sign off here. I appreciate your time, my brother. It was fun. I'm glad I don't have the COVID. The voice is doing a little bit better this week, and I forgot all about my ankle except when I leaned back to be smarmy. I bumped it on the table. That was fun. You probably saw my expression and my trying not to die look on my face there. But other than that, I forgot my ankle is even broken.
You need a tissue?
I do. Got an issue. Here's a tissue. All right, brother. We'll sign off. So for Russ and Coop and the two grumpy bastards, remember, keep your focus and stay woke.